Hello and welcome to this RSPA Canadian Community Roundtable focusing on emerging technologies and new opportunities. I'm Jim Roddy, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at the RSPA. Thanks everybody so much for joining us. For those not familiar with the RSPA, we're North America's largest community of VARs, software developers, vendors, and distributors in the retail, restaurant, and grocery verticals. So we're fit for any organization that's serious about growth in those markets. And many of our companies have been members for decades, and we frequently add new startup tech companies because we accelerate their growth and they see the massive ROI that membership offers. Also, RSPA has had a very strong presence in Canada for many years, and we continue to grow that going forward. So if you're interested in learning more about the association, you can see on your screen there in the bottom right, membership at gorspa.org. That really unlocks everything that the RSPA has to offer. And so instead of diving into a lot of what we're doing, we're going to share a few success stories first, very quickly. So you can see here, Sean Buckley, who's the retail partnership lead at Shopify, talks about how conversations have really helped open up their business and then also has materially impacted the success in the market. Next, Andrea Roberts, the president of Teletech Systems, talks about how the RSPA helps keep her organization in the know and has definitely sustained their longevity. So both of those are from Toronto. We head out west to BC. Tim Shane from King Corp talks about how the RSPA provides everything that you need the network to achieve growth, and you won't feel alone in the sea of IT small businesses. And then back to the Toronto area, Paula Duke from Brampton says the RSPA community is a support group at many levels. The support and knowledge are priceless. And I'm going to turn it over for a minute to RSPA Member Services Manager Ashley Nagy, and she's going to highlight a couple of the many services that the RSPA offers. Ashley, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so as Jim shared, we have several services that we do offer, and a few that I'll point out are our advisory services for both VARs and ISVs, working with members of the RSPA team on a variety of different things, whether it's sales coaching or customer health checkups. A number of opportunities there to partner. Also, we have our legal advisor hotline. So if it's a customer contract that you're reviewing or you have a very specific legal question that you might have, that's certainly something that we can help with. And then our UPS shipping discounts now extend to Canada as well. So that's a great benefit. That's a pretty big savings for our members. And last but not least, our warm introductions. So a lot of one-on-one introductions, whether you're a vendor, an ISV, or a VAR, an opportunity to meet and network with other members across the community.
Great, Ashley. Can you talk about the Rogers Business Solutions plans, please, that are available in Canada?
Yep. So this is fairly new this year. If you haven't heard about it, we do have the Rogers for Business plan that offers preferred pricing for our RSPA members, which includes data plans, voice plans, and SIM cards as well. So a great opportunity to have some cost savings there alongside your RSPA membership.
Great. And then can you highlight the RSPA Solution Center?
Yes. So the RSPA Solution Center, you may have seen one of the emails, if you're a member, that went out, I believe, earlier this week. This is an opportunity for our vendor and ISV members to showcase their solutions. Each of our members get their own Vendor Solution Center hub page where you can feature things like white papers, case studies, videos, sales ads, things like that, so that you can stay connected with the rest of the community and share what's new, what's popular, and what folks should be looking at. And this has opened a lot of doors for our members to be able to network and be able to get that interaction that we don't get, alongside being, face-to-face at an event.
Great, thank you, Ashley. And just last word about the Solution Center. We launched that, like Ashley said, in the summer and have had thousands of visits to that site. So if you haven't participated in that as a vendor, we encourage you to do so. If you're a VAR and ISV, be sure to visit that. There's a lot of innovative products there. So, all right, quick thank you to the RSPA Canadian Community sponsors for 2020. This year is BlueStar, Paymentry, Star, Global Payments, Partner Tech, Touch Dynamic, and ScanSource. Big thanks to our sponsors for making this event possible, and then the live events that the RSPA has. We're looking to return to those next year. Retail Now 2021 is in Nashville. We're planning on having a Canadian community event there, July 25th through 27th. So again, thanks to our partners for making those live events and these online roundtables, something that everybody in the community can benefit from. Turn it over for a minute here to Jon Kirk, the RSPA CEO. Jon, can you kind of set the stage for us and give us a word before we get rocking and rolling?
Sure, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. You know, guys, thinking about the whole business of emerging technologies, it's really emerging opportunities when you think about it. And the experience that each of us have, whether we're new to the business or been at it a while and have some miles on the odometer, step back and think about it. Let's just say that you've got 30 years in the business for the sake of conversation. Today is day one plus 30 years with the benefit of 30 years of experience behind you. If you've been at it for 10 years, today is day one plus 10 years of miles on the odometer that aid what you do today. But today is day one. And I think that's how we got to always look at our businesses. I know that's how we look at the RSPA. It's day one. And, you know, there's a great quote from a world-renowned vocalist named Renee Fleming. She's known in the circles of opera and other circles. But one of the quotes that she shared in a book that I read recently was the best singers, some of the best singers in the world don't know they have a voice. So some of the best singers in the world don't know that they can sing. No one's told them, and they don't see themselves as talented as they are. And so much of it's mindset and not letting anyone define who we are but us. And as we evolve as businesses, as we embrace some of these emerging technologies that in reality are emerging opportunities that help our customers adjust and adapt and evolve, we're really redefining who we are the way we want to define who we are. And I think that's what this in part, that's what this discussion is going to be about today. It's about opportunity. It's about seizing the opportunity. And it's about realizing it can be done. And we've got the benefit of experience. Even if we're new to the business or we've been at it a while, we've still got the benefit of all of our experience starting at day one, which is today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the group, Jim, and looking forward to a hearty conversation as we move this business forward, because we can do great things in the weeks and months ahead.
Great, thank you, Jon. And again, this will be an open forum information sharing discussion. And please note that the views and opinions expressed during this roundtable are those of the participants and don't necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Retail Solutions Providers Association. Also, we've asked everyone on today's call to avoid sales pitches and to identify themselves when they speak for the benefit of our listeners. Starting off our program is Michel, the president of BlueStar Canada and a member of the RSPA Board of Directors. So Michel, before we get to emerging technologies and new opportunities, there have been some challenges related to shipping that the RSPA Canadian Committee felt our members should know about. Can you take a couple minutes to share your perspective on that topic and help share that with our audience today? Michel.
Sure. You guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great. So folks, we are heading into the last mile for the end of the year, and there's quite a wave out there of partners and the ecosystem talking about deliveries and late deliveries and whatnot. So I felt that it was important that I bring you guys up to speed on what's going on with supply chain. Contrary to what some of us may believe, the overall retail business in North America is up, and not by a lot, about 2 points, but the retail business is up, and the activities are very, very significant. Therefore, again, contrary to what we may believe, there was a decline of container shipments from the Orient coming into North America in the summertime. But since the month of August, there has been a pretty significant increase in the volume of containers coming into the Americas that impacts supply chain. Combined with this, there is also an increased cost of the containers coming in because of the demand. So back in June or the end of May, a container coming into North America was about $1,400 US. It is now at $2,500 and increasing. So that's another factor that impacts a bit of the supply chain. But why is this? The reason around it is very similar to what we're experiencing in our personal lives. Confinement is one piece. So containers arriving from some of the Orient have got to go into confinement for a couple of weeks. There's ships that have been confined, and I could go on like this. So at the end of the day, what am I saying? What I'm saying is that the supply chain is not at all what it used to be in previous years. If you add the holiday season just around the corner, what is going to be the impact on us getting products in at the right time? It probably is going to be even more challenging. So I suspect and I plan that some of the suppliers that are going to be coming to you guys asking earlier than later for forecasts, and it makes a lot of sense because they for sure are challenged with what I've just described to you, and they are just trying to look at what are the demand out there so we could align accordingly. It is not easy again because we have limited every one of the phone here. I've got limited control over what's going on, but are we impacted? We are absolutely impacted. So please do not believe that the vendors or manufacturers, some of them are on the line, that they are the cause or the only cause of the delays. Absolutely not. Supply chain is also a very significant factor in the delays that we may encounter.
Great, Michel. Thank you very much for that update. Again, we wanted to make sure that everybody on this call in the RSPA Canadian community was aware of that. So, Michel, really appreciate you sharing your insights. Thank you, sir.
More than welcome.
Great. So let's turn now to our open-ended discussion on emerging technologies and new opportunities. So to kick off our conversation, we have 5 featured guests. Let's start first with Jon Gunn, the Director of Strategic Partnerships at FastSensor. Jon, can you start us off and share your perspective on what you're seeing as emerging technologies, new opportunities, please?
Sure, absolutely. I'm Jon Gunn. I've been around the channel for about 15 years doing business in both US and Canada. And I'm also a member of the RSPA Strategic Technology Solutions Committee. And it gives us this great perspective because not only we have life experience, but also the ability to talk with others that are in our field to be able to get that. And that's kind of what we wanted to share today. Some of the interesting things to note right now is even though some things may feel a little bit bleak, there's a lot of existing business with things that you're already doing today. And emerging technologies such as contactless, and I have some feeling some others are going to talk about this as well, contactless payments, curbside pickup, digital signage is going to be huge next year. It's finally taking off, and there's a lot of opportunities to change how we're engaging with customers than we have been in the past between mobility and digital signage. And I think it's very important to get up to speed and get out of your traditional sales mode and think about how we do business and how we engage with customers rather than the mechanics of actually making the sale. I kind of like to give that sort of as a foundation. Most notably, I don't know if you've seen it, but digital signage technology is going to be needed because restaurants are starting to retool. Starbucks, as you may or may not know, closed 400 stores in the US. And what they're doing is they're opening 400 new ones with 3 drive-through lanes, one for the Uber Eats guy, one for the customer who pre-orders on their app, and one for the person who comes to and says, you know, I don't really know what I'd like today. And this methodology is actually spreading to other places. A lot of businesses are opening multiple drive-through lanes They're moving from what used to be called BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store, to buy online, pick up on curb. And imagine, if you will, that you could actually have digital signage placed that has sensors on it that recognizes when somebody arrives and says, "Hey, John, thanks for visiting today. Your order's being packed. We'll be with you shortly." And then if you connect that technology and look at their history and say, "Oh, by the way, John, I noticed that you usually buy beer when you come in. Would you like to add beer to your order today? Text this number to be able to add to your order." So there's methodologies where we can still focus on traditional sales avenues of being able to look at, understand a customer, upsell, and be able to increase the share of wallet or share of cart using modern technologies, and still be able to get by in the pandemic era. And it should be noted that these changes that are happening due to the pandemic are extending beyond the pandemic. It's going to substantially change how we do business in the world. And that's US, Canada, every place. And I do business in 17 countries. So I can tell you across the board, this is true everywhere.
Got it. Great, John. Thank you. So helping us build our list here of technologies to keep an eye on. And then again, once we talk with our featured guests, we'll open it up for folks to either ask some questions or weigh in and build out an even longer list. So thank you very much. Let's turn next to our second featured guest, Richard Carrierre, the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing at CyberLink. Richard, can you share with us your perspective on emerging technologies and new opportunities, please?
Yes, absolutely. And hi, everyone. I'm Richard Carrierre. I'm a fellow Canadian, although I've been in the US for many, many years now. CyberLink, I'll bring a perspective around facial recognition, because this is essentially what we bring to the table. We have some solutions that enable facial recognition across a very large number of use cases relevant to retail, hospitality, and others. So when we think about that, first, a very fast changing space. And as John alluded just before me, there are applications that you start seeing for personalized experiences. So through digital signage, interactive kiosks, just statistics gathering in the retail hospitality environment to optimize the offering, or for micro targeted marketing. Contactless payments, facial recognition is starting to be used. First, we see lots of applications, practical applications in fintech as a means of authentication, but it's moving very, very fast. So you're going to start having it in these interactive kiosks everywhere, where you don't have to even do these credit cards right now that technically cannot touch a POS terminal, but do touch them. So your face will very soon be your means of authentication. This is all in addition to security and monitoring, which is all things like we would have talked about pre-COVID. In addition to that, one thing that's still emerging, it was gaining traction pre-COVID. Now it took a little bit of a step back, but I suspect it will come with a vengeance, is how you can use facial recognition to automate loyalty programs, make sure that when loyalty program member, a VIP, enters any facility, whether they drive through with their car or they walk in a place, that they are immediately recognized and they can benefit from that unique experience that differentiates from just shopping online. Now add to that COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, so there's lots of things for to create these safe, pleasant experiences where people don't have to fight when they see somebody not complying. Facial recognition technologies are there that they can be integrated either in health kiosks to measure the body temperature and make sure people wear masks and all of these things, which is very popular at the moment. But also, I think we're going to see more and more these integrated in spaces through the existing security camera systems, where in a crowd, anyone who's not complying will be able to be identified and taken care of, instead of having customers in the stores who start fighting about wearing masks or whatnot. Right. So these are some of the things that we're seeing. Add to that more and more contactless experiences. We were talking about that earlier. But also, you think about interaction. Today, interactive kiosks, people think of these touch screens where you go over a bunch of menus. Now you can use your head. Like, you can already answer lots of questions by nodding or shaking your head, and this can all be contactless. So these are all sorts of things that we see can completely transform experiences for customers, make areas safer, and yeah, I'll be happy to discuss that with the group today.
Great, thank you, Richard. Yeah, I had never heard of the touchless touchscreen. Is essentially what you're talking about. If it can read you from that standpoint. So thanks for weighing in. Our next featured guest is Bill Siudak. He's the president of Paymentry, headquartered in Mississauga. Hey, Bill, welcome. What's your perspective on this topic?
Okay, well, just my background. I've actually been in retail one way or another for decades and decades. So I don't know how far back that goes. I've actually developed retail software companies, several in the past, and we still own one today. And then now currently I'm president of Paymentry, which is a sort of a middleware, if you want to call it that, between all types of retail systems and debit credit processing systems. And we're getting into a bunch of other things here. The main thing I wanted to bring up, and this is what we're seeing from both in our retail application business and in the debit credit business that we're in, is virtually everybody now is going to be running a web store one way or another. If you're not running at a web store, you're probably going to be out of business shortly. So what we're seeing here is a great demand to, even no matter what kind of retail management system you have, you're still going to be able to, you're going to have to almost provide your customer with some sort of a web presence. Now, what's happening a lot out there right now is a lot of retailers are running out and they're either going with Shopify or WooCommerce. Even GoDaddy now has got a WordPress offering for that. The thing is, so you've got all these islands of web stores out there, and then you've got all these islands of different retail management systems, restaurant systems, and all that. And the thing is, certain companies, the bigger retail management systems, they can do their own integration into all of these guys here. But what's happening, and what we're finding out, there's a lot of smaller software developers who really don't have the resources or the time or whatever to actually make these connections. And again, a lot of these retailers, they don't have a big budget to spend on making a connection to a retail management system. So that's one big thing that we're seeing here right now, is that if you're in any type of software or reselling it, either a restaurant management or retail management system, you're almost going to be required to be able to offer your customers a connection to a web presence. In conjunction with that, what we're seeing is that there's a lot of technologies out there that can solve some of the problems that you have today quite simply. And one of them is the pickup at the curb or, delivery or any of that kind of stuff. Now, restaurant software has that built in. A lot of them have already, the fact that they can do pay at the table. So in other words, you bring the terminal over to the customer, you pay for it right on the spot. That technology is perfect for pickup at the curb. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of just regular retail software out there that hasn't made that connection yet. And it would be a very, very simple thing for these software developers to actually put in the concept of a phony table with a check number, and then use the existing payment terminals that come from every processor in Canada and the U.S. basically to, be able to pick up at the curb. And really, it's just an offshoot of pay at the table. So very little development there, and you can have a beautiful system to, handle curb payments. One other little minor thing I'm seeing is that a lot of these, because they're sort of islands right now, a good example is gift card. I have a gift card in my store, but I can't use it up in my web store. So that's another place where maybe integration could be done to get, ability to sell or redeem a card at the store or at the web store. So that's basically some of the stuff that we'd like to talk about going forward here. Okay, thanks.
Got it. Thank you, Bill. So like I have written down now, we have contactless, curbside, digital signage, which ties into self-serve kiosks, facial recognition, which ties into a lot of different things. You talked about retail and restaurant management systems that are e-commerce enabled, and then also a loyalty integration. So a healthy list so far. And to round it out, our final two featured guests representing Touch Dynamic, we have Sales and Marketing Manager Don Sakic, and also Vice President Dave Graber. So why don't we go Don first, then Dave, please.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Thank you for the introduction. So again, my name is Don Sakic. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager for Touch Dynamic. And before I start with what I was going to discuss, I just wanted to thank Michel, who spoke first when he was talking about the supply chain and containers being delayed, because we've seen a lot of that as well. We've seen a lot of our containers stuck on the water or getting stuck in port. So it takes us a little bit longer to get materials and product in-house, which frustrates customers. And then also we've seen delays in shipping just across the United States as well. So I was glad to hear that he spoke about that, because that was a very, we've been dealing with that as well. So what I'd like to discuss is, so we've seen a lot of uptick in sales, particularly with items that are peripheral based, or what we would call peripherals. So for example, we have a lot of people reaching out to us asking about a stylus that they can use for a touch screen or on a tablet, just so that they're not touching the screen, gives them a lot less contact. We've also seen an uptick in our holster sales, and people just inquiring about holsters for specifically, let's say, a tablet. I think a server that's working an 8-hour shift at a restaurant that is open feels much more comfortable with having the tablet either around their neck or on their hip, or a cross-style holster. They just know that they're the only one touching it, and they're not being exposed to any other people touching the screen. And then also, ironically, it's just funny to me because we've seen a real uptick as well in screen protectors. And when you think of a screen protector, it's just a piece of plastic that goes over a screen. And the objective of it is actually to protect the screen from cracking and damaging. But I've just found that a lot of people feel like this little piece of plastic that you put on a screen, it just offers them another layer of protection against bacteria and germs from other people touching a screen. And I just think it's ironic because it really doesn't. It's not, our screen protectors are not antimicrobial. Most of them on the market are not. It's just meant to protect that screen. So I just think that having that layer of plastic, which is something that costs, I mean, you can buy one for your cell phone on Amazon for, $10, $15. Having that extra layer of plastic just offers people a level of security and comfort. And I mean, in these times, spending, $15 on something that can give you a real peace of mind, I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? It's very comforting. So those are the kind of the upticks we've seen on things that are peripheral based. And then also, the idea of antimicrobial, these people want, devices, covers, things that are going to kill bacteria on a screen, in several minutes. They have some fixtures that you can put on terminals and tablets that will kill bacteria in a short amount of time. I'm sure they do sell protectors that are like that as well. They're just a little bit more difficult to find. So those are kind of the things that I have seen on my end. And now I'm going to throw it to Dave.
Great, and I guess thank you, Don. Before we go to Dave, interesting there that there's a combination of things that are safer and get increase the safety and the health, and then there's also the perception of it as well. Like people want to feel like things are safe as well. It's got to be really overt that the consumer knows to protect.
Right. I kind of liken it to the placebo effect. I mean, this little piece of plastic really isn't going to do much. It's going to keep, again, your screen from cracking. But it's just people are buying them in droves because they just feel like it offers some type of security. So, again, if you could do that at a very minimal cost, why not?
Great. Thank you, Don. And before we turn it over to Dave, if anybody wants to line up to weigh in and share your questions, thoughts, any comments that you have about emerging technologies and new opportunities, feel free to put your question or just let us know in the chat function you'd like to speak up once, in a couple minutes. So Dave Graber, we have a good, pretty healthy list here. So all the pressure on you to add to the list. Got a good list so far. So what do you have?
Well, I think everybody has stolen my thunder with the curbside checkout. But in general, that is one of the major emerging technologies that we've seen in the past 6 months. A couple, points on this curbside checkout. It's also a drive-through checkout. Some of our C-store applications or our C-store application customers are rewriting their software. So a customer would come there with their iPhone or whatever, have a QR code on it, and then use a tablet as a remote check-in, where then they bring their goods to the car. So there's a lot of that type of shift in the industry, at least that industry that we've seen, with the tablet-based curbside check-in and drive-through. Some of the technologies that we've been toying around with was AI. There's a few companies that we've been talking to and developing on to kind of take like an AI approach, where you would have POS that tells you exactly what you want, like the Amazon method. Like you walk into a store, it reads everything that you're not touching and going through a checkout that way. But that's a few of the emerging technologies that we've seen pretty quick, talked about pretty quickly in the past 6 months. But curbside's been the focal point for us. What Don was talking about too is the antimicrobial. There was a lot of questioning of how to get like these devices, these POS terminals or these touchscreen devices, to not have any are they able to fight COVID or actually prevent COVID? And technically no, not right now, but there is devices out there that will have a coding, like she said, and that's one of the major things that we've been exploring for sure.
Fantastic, Dave. Thank you very much. And round us out. I won't review the list right now for time, but we have a perfect list of 10 of technologies that folks should keep an eye on. So we'll take either two paths here. So we can have our featured guest talk a little bit more about the technologies that they presented and how they fit under these categories we have listed here, or we can turn it over to anybody in the audience who wants to weigh in. Dave Wilson from Paid, it looks like you would like to weigh in as well. What is your perspective on maybe some emerging technologies that could open up new opportunities for VARs and ISVs?
Dave is muted.
You there? Dave, can you unmute yourself? All right, Dave, if we'll hold off 1 second. Roma weighed in with a question. We'll turn it over to our featured guest, saying, how is AI helping with retail during COVID? So I don't know if anybody, Dave Graber, you were the one I think who brought that up, but anybody else who wants to weigh in. Roma's question, how is AI helping with retail during COVID?
So more specifically, I guess retail, not so much, more on the restaurant side, like a cafe or cafeteria, where there's devices and there's programs that we've been developing, working on, that you can bring like a tray of food up, and instead of handing stuff off to other people, it's just on the table. You bring it to a register and it reads all the food, and you'll actually give a price and check out. It's all contactless. That was one of the things we were exploring. That's kind of what I was alluding to.
Got it. Thank you, Dave. Anybody else want to weigh in about AI helping with retail during COVID? Any of our featured guests?
Yeah, I'd like to add something. This is Jon Gunn at FastSensor. I was having a conversation with somebody today that's a potential partner that is using AI to read the information from your point of sale terminals and using that to figure out with 98.5% accuracy what to do with your employee scheduling to make sure that you had people on staff when you need to. And I found that fascinating because I haven't heard that particular use case in AI, which it's such a powerful thing, AI and machine learning. It's really worth exploring to see what all is out there and what you can do with it. That was called Timeforge is the name of the company I was speaking to.
Got it. Thank you. Timeforge. We'll write that down. Anybody else in the audience or of our featured guests, any insights in terms of AI in retail? All right. We also have David Gausman from HP and also the current chairman of the board for the RSPA. David, if you could unmute yourself and share your perspective, please.
Yeah, so thanks for having me today. Great committee. I'm also, I've been part of the STS, Strategic Technology Solutions Committee, for a number of years. And my friend on the phone, Dave Graber, actually kind of alluded to it, but I do think that you are going to see not necessarily immediately in the next few months, but you're going to see a real strong emergence of the Amazon Go type technology or cashierless retailing, where you don't even necessarily need traditional checkout anymore. I think there's a few interesting things. One, this will not take over every segment of the market. So for everybody thinking it might spell doom and gloom, it really doesn't. Done a lot of research on this topic, and it really relates more to high frequency stores that you go to frequently and buy a number of products. But I think the interesting thing here with this kind of technology for our community is that this is big technology being created for big retailers. And we all know that at some point, these technology companies have a desire to start installing this into chains that are not thousands of locations, right? They want to reach that independent operator. And we have a great community in the RSPA of resellers and really technology experts that are able to take this type of technology, learn it, become smart with it, and install it on a more local scale. And I really do think that while this technology isn't going to be knocking on the door in the next few months, there's a lot of startups working on this stuff right now. And I think that there will be demand to install all sorts of different computer vision powered solutions, cashierless retail being one of them, sometime over the next couple of years. So my recommendation to the community here is pay attention to the startups that are in this space right now. Start reading and learning everything you can about computer vision and AI and try to become familiar with it, because when this technology comes knocking, you want to be the ones that are there, that are skilled and ready to start installing these types of solutions. So that's one that I really think is has got a lot of potential. And like I said, it's not just cashierless retail. I think there's a lot of AI computer vision powered solutions that are coming to market. I would also keep my eye on kitchen management as well, and using AI to really improve the efficiency of what's happening in the kitchen and make sure that everything is sanitary, using a lot of computer vision type tools. So would love to hear if anybody has any thoughts on that, but I think it's a really solid emerging area of the market that is really ripe for resellers to enter in the next couple of years.
Yeah, thank you, David. Any of our featured guests want to weigh in on what David talked about in terms of cashierless retailing, AI, kitchen management, those technologies?
Don't all speak at once.
Okay. All right, well, feel free to weigh in. We have about 15 minutes or so left in this. Before we move on, Jon Gunn just sent a chat to everybody. The company he was referring to was not Timeforge, it was Timeforge, all one word, T-I-M-E, capital F-O-R-G-E. Audrey and Anthony Presley from Timeforge have been longtime supporters of the RSPA. Got to spend a lot of time with Anthony at a past Retail Now, and then also at RSPA Inspire earlier this year. So good people, John, thanks for clarifying that. All right, we've had a few other folks line up. I guess before we get to that, Roma said thanks everybody for the great input. So thank you to our featured guests who weighed in about AI in retail. Sherry Bryant from Paid. Sherry, can you share your perspective on compelling emerging technologies that would help VARs and ISVs?
Hi, Jim. Thank you for letting me speak just for a couple minutes, but I just wanted to echo what Bill Siudak was saying. The e-commerce world has changed, and of course, the small businesses are struggling right now because they do have to have a web presence. And, Paid, who I'm with now, is a registered payment facilitator both in Canada and the US. And so we have developed an all-in-one commerce platform that allows partners to resell our service to small businesses. And so it allows them to get up on the web, have a cart if they need one, take payments, and then also ship their products. Shipping is huge right now. And, having that ability to be able to pick your carrier, but having a very seamless integration helps them to not only save money, but also a lot of time. And that's what they need. So just putting them in, getting them in the right step, in the right direction, helping them out, especially during these challenging times for a lot of them.
Got it. Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, that kind of ties in with how Michel started this conversation about there's all the technologies, but you got to make sure your supply chain works. And so if you have folks who are taking advantage, merchants taking advantage of the web store, got to be able to get those products out as well. So
Absolutely.
appreciate you you weighing in. Garrett Nita from Gamber Johnson. Garrett, what is your question for our featured guests and for the group in general, please?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, just in general. So we're a new manufacturer to the space this year, and really just trying to, figure out, especially with COVID changing now and that, what are some of the solutions that people are seeing out there, mainly around tablets, and even just in general, like some of the terminals that could be used more for like mobile point of sale. Like, is there like requests for like cases? I know someone mentioned like screen protectors, trying to help protect the screen and that. But like for the device themselves, like are they looking for like some sort of cases to protect everything? Stands, I know curbside pickup has been huge now. Just some of the things that people are seeing in the space that we could attack in that and provide.
Thank you, Garrett. Who of our featured guests wants to weigh in on Garrett's question?
I can weigh in a little bit, Jim. So like I spoke about before, so we've been seeing a lot of those peripherals that have been asked for, and it's not so much, I would say, cases or stands. We actually, especially in the beginning, in the on-site, in the beginning of COVID-19, we got asked quite a bit about cleaning procedures, how to properly clean a terminal or a tablet. Do we sell wipes? Do we sell antimicrobial screen protectors? So it was a lot to do. It's been a lot to do with that. So not necessarily stands and enclosures, but just what are the proper cleaning techniques for terminals and tablets? What solutions should we be using? What's too harsh? What's not going to take bacteria off, and then what's going to be too harsh for the screen? So we just got on slew of questions about stuff like that with cleaning the terminals and tablets, and then obviously, like I said, the peripherals, the antimicrobial screens and devices that you can attach to a screen to kill bacteria. Those are definitely the biggest things that we have seen, over the course of the last couple months.
And this is Jon Gunn. I'd like to add another piece to that. Probably the most interesting has been UVC, because there are certain frequencies of ultraviolet that are known to kill viruses, including coronavirus, which is UVC. And there are devices that are out there, and I wrote an article about it some time back. And at this point, I'm actually now seeing that they're actually emerging on the marketplace where you can get them now. And the key piece of it is that it's an ultraviolet bulb that senses motion, and you can't expose your skin to it. So essentially what it does is it mounts over the top of the payment device or the terminal or the touchscreen or even the digital sign with touchscreen, and it blasts the screen with ultraviolet radiation. And then if any movement is sensed nearby, it turns itself off. They also have to look for particularly location if there may be children that may be looking up into it, because you can't look directly into it either. So, but that is an emerging technology that I'm seeing a lot of touchscreen kiosk companies, tablet enclosure companies are beginning to adopt that. And if you look out there, you'll actually see some of those.
Interesting. Got it. Thank you. Garrett, was that helpful? Is that some of the info you were looking for?
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great. No, thanks for weighing in. If anybody else has questions, please line up in the chat function. And I guess we have about a little less than 10 minutes left right now. And I guess if our featured guest can help until the next question comes in, can you address any one of these questions here? Like, we've talked a lot about the technologies. Can you talk about some of these next steps in terms of how are these going to help a reseller in particular, open up new doors that they'll be able to go in? Is it leading with these technologies? Is it talking about in the third point there, hey, I have the total solution here right now? What do you see? What do you do successfully? If you're working with partners, what do you see them do successfully, taking these emerging technologies to market and actually increasing their sales? Who of our featured guests would like to weigh in with that?
Yeah, Richard, I can jump in because we've seen over and over working with channel partners who work with VARs in the space and bringing facial recognition. It's a topic of interest. It's an instant conversation opener, but beyond that, You look at all these retail stores who have immediate needs around COVID. There are opportunities to obviously sell more stuff, whether it's health kiosks or things of that nature. But also, it's a great opportunity to bring in technologies that create a ongoing revenue stream for the VARs, because these are things that typically we sell on a SaaS model. So this is a good way to get in the door for the immediate term. Say, okay, here's something that can help make your space safe, comply, whatever the reason. But then beyond that, as people look at the world post-COVID, all the great examples of technologies that were brought by the group today, a lot of them can benefit from facial recognition technologies, anywhere from security or, as I said, loyalty management programs, things like that. So it creates an ongoing pipeline of solutions, interactive solutions, touchless solutions that could be brought to the customers. So in that sense, I think it's a pretty good way to get in front of the customers, get their attention, and almost assuredly find something they need that could be provided by these solutions.
And Richard, thanks for that. And just to clarify, is if I'm understanding correctly, it's not just, let me tell you about, you were mentioning facial recognition, which is your specialty, but any one of these technologies, it can't be, let me tell you about these great technologies. It has to be understand that merchant and say, here's a specific application and here's how it is going to benefit you. Am I understanding that correctly? Like you have to go in with more of a pinpoint rather than a shotgun,
absolutely.
check this out, cool thing.
Absolutely. That's why I brought up. Right now, there's a high interest around COVID for all these obvious reasons. And a lot of stores, restaurants, places, they're open for business and they want to create these safe environments. So there's an immediate need there for the shop owners, for the end customers, but also there's a huge business opportunity for the VARs. So that's a very pinpoint thing today. Then after that, you can bring there's a pipeline of things, but I think you can introduce that. And we've been pretty successful having these conversations, a lot of our partners, to bring it to end users, and we're starting to see deployment of these solutions. So it's not like it's not happening. It is happening.
Great, thank you, Richard.
If I may comment,
yeah, please, Michel.
Team, we've been working with Richard for some time. They're a great partner to work with. Even if they're based out of the US, Richard's a Canadian in his heart, so there's a lot of collaboration, and these guys have got pretty slick solutions. So please be curious enough to have a look at it, and it's a booming business, that's for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Michel.
Well, it's honest.
Yep. Can I jump in, Jim?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Just because of the opportunity, I am not a self-promoter. You guys kind of know this from my other RSPA and education series and all that. But I would like to say that the time that we're in right now actually requires conversation and understanding what their plan is, and connecting with your customer to say, what are you doing for health and safety? What are you doing for enabling remote working? What are you doing for getting back to work? And that's the dialogue that's actually going to open up the opportunity for all these various technologies that you heard about today. For instance, and I didn't mention it, and it is a primary business that we're in now because of COVID, but what are you doing for contact tracing? How are you protecting your employees? And in Canada, and particularly the conversations that I've been having with folks are saying that it's an insurance issue up there and a compliance issue. And it's less so in the US, although it's becoming more legal litigation as people start deciding who do they want to try and blame, because that's the way Americans think, unfortunately. But in Canada, it's a compliance and insurance issue. So I would absolutely be asking the questions, what are you doing for health, safety, security? What are you doing for contact tracing? And open up that dialogue. If there's something in contact tracing, we can absolutely help. But there are a lot of technologies that are out there, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody about how you could actually help as a reseller.
So
Great, thank you, John.
So you're bang on. For the ones that have not followed the news lately, the insurance prime have doubled for restaurants, and some of them have tripled in the last couple of months. So you're bang on. There are new requirements out there, And you've got to be intimate enough to have the close and real conversations with your customers. Absolutely.
All right, so I know we are right
say-
up against time, but we did have one more question come in from Dan Schachtler. If I botched your last name, I apologize, Dan. But Dan says, I'm hearing a lot of interest in tools for digitally monitoring / managing food safety and ensuring that all critical in-store tasks like opening procedures, line checks, and cleaning are getting completed. Any comment from our featured guests? Oh, come on, we got to end on a good note.
There is, and I can't think of the name of the technology, but there's a company that does, I think it might be called Redbook. And what they do is give you procedures and checklists that are really simple for you to go through and check off every single day all the things that you're doing to make sure that you're in compliance with things. I think it's called Redbook. I'll find it and send it to Jim Roddy, who could share it with the group. And it's a starting place for your research.
Thank you, Dan or John, and I'll also say to Dan, if you want to reach out to membership at GoRSPA.org, we'll see if we can find somebody inside of the RSPA organization who can help you out. Again, we're the largest retail IT organization of vendors, VARs, ISVs, distributors in North America. So hopefully we'll have at least one, if not a few folks inside our association who can help you out. So thank you for that. Alrighty. Well, that is everything that we have for today. Again, thanks to everybody for participating. Thanks to our Canadian community sponsors. Again, BlueStar, Paymentry, Star Micronics, Global Payments, PartnerTech, Touch Dynamic, and ScanSource. Also want to say thanks again very much to our panelists today, Jon Gunn at FastSensor, Richard Carrierre from CyberLink, Bill Siudak from Paymentry, Don Sakic and Dave Graber at Touch Dynamic. And thanks everybody so much for tuning in and also for participating. You know, for the folks who are listening to this on demand, you'll have no idea that we had to scramble and had all sorts of technical difficulties to get this thing going. So kudos to everybody who participated, who weighed in and pulled this thing off. So great information. Thanks to the Canadian community for sponsoring this and making this happen as well. We appreciate everybody weighing in. And again, if you want to participate in the RSPA and be a part of this great community, reach out to us at membership@gorspa.org. Thanks everybody for participating and listening. Have a great day and goodbye, everybody.